Welcome to our channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any of our spooky stories. In the heart of a forgotten city, where the streets are silent and the shadows seem to have a life of their own, stands a dark orphanage. Abandoned for decades, its once white walls now display the pallor of untold secrets. The windows, with broken glass, seem like eyes that saw everything but could do nothing to prevent the tragic fate of the children who lived there. The orphanage is a monument to the past, a constant reminder of dark days. The legends surrounding it are whispered among the older inhabitants, those who still remember the terrifying headlines and fruitless searches. Children who disappeared without a trace, swallowed by the darkness of a place that seemed to devour innocence. At night, when the moon casts a silvery glow over the building, it seems to breathe. The wind passing through its cracks sounds like sighs, laments of lost souls. They say that if you listen carefully, you can hear distant laughter, childish laughter that doesn't match the despair that settled there. The stories speak of a mysterious call, a silent invitation that attracts the curious and the unwary. Like a siren's song, it awakens the need to explore, to uncover the secrets the walls hold. And it was this call that attracted a group of teenagers, young people eager for adventure but unaware of the danger that awaited them. The orphanage was not just an old abandoned building. It was a guardian of dark memories, a portal to a past that refused to be forgotten. And as the young people approached, they felt the weight of these memories, as if the ghosts themselves were welcoming them, eager to share their stories of pain and disappearance. On a warm summer afternoon, when the sun still touched the earth with its golden light, a group of teenagers gathered in the city's central park. The atmosphere was charged with excitement and expectation. There was a sparkle in each of their eyes, a sparkle that only young people possess, that mix of courage and foolishness that makes them believe they are invincible. Amid laughter and teasing, the group decided to explore the abandoned orphanage. It was an idea born out of the need for adventure, to test their own limits. There were Pedro, the charismatic leader, Ana, the fearless and curious one, João, always ready for a challenge, and Clara, the most sensitive but equally fascinated by the unknown. They knew the stories surrounding the orphanage, the mysteries, and the rumors of ghosts, but curiosity was stronger than fear. As they walked through the empty streets leading to the orphanage, a strange silence fell over them. The easy laughter gave way to furtive glances and hesitant steps. It was as if the city was waiting, holding its breath, waiting to see what would happen. The path seemed longer than they remembered, each corner an echo of ghostly footsteps, each shadow a promise of revelation. When they finally arrived, the imposing building greeted them with its aura of mystery. The worn walls and dark entrance seemed to whisper secrets of bygone eras. Pedro was the first to cross the threshold, his heart beating fast, not just from fear but from the excitement of about to uncover the unknown. Ana followed closely, her flashlight cutting through the darkness with a trembling beam of light. João and Clara hesitated for a moment, exchanging nervous glances, before also entering. Inside the orphanage, the air was heavy, dense with the weight of untold stories. The narrow corridors seemed to stretch infinitely, and the sound of their footsteps reverberated off the walls, as if the building itself was alive. There was a palpable tension in the air, a sense that at any moment something could happen. The young people explored every corner, every room, driven by a mix of fear and fascination. The nervous laughter from before was now careful whispers. Everything seemed impregnated with an invisible presence, something that could not be seen but could be felt. And as they advanced, the feeling of being watched increased, as if the invisible eyes of lost souls were following them, evaluating their every move. It was just the beginning of a journey that would change their lives forever, a journey that would lead them to confront not only the mysteries of the orphanage, but also their own deepest fears. As the young people ventured through the dark, dusty corridors of the orphanage, a growing unease took hold of each of them. The flashlights in their hands trembled slightly, casting dancing shadows on the peeling walls. The air inside was dense, laden with a coldness that seemed to emanate from the very walls. Every step echoed, amplifying the feeling that they were not alone. Suddenly, Anna, who was at the front, stopped abruptly. Her eyes widened, and her breath became choppy. Pedro, right behind her, placed a hand on her shoulder, quietly asking what had happened. Anna pointed to the end of the corridor, where a half-open door revealed a room full of old toys, scattered as if they had been abandoned in a hurry. The four entered the room carefully, each one more aware of their surroundings. It was a playroom, or at least it had been one day. Dolls with empty eyes, rusty metal cars, and incomplete puzzle pieces were strewn across the floor. The scene was a disturbing combination of innocence and abandonment. It was then that Clara, the most sensitive of the group, felt a light touch on her arm. She turned quickly but saw no one. Her heart raced, and she moved closer to her friends, trying to ignore the feeling of being watched. João, noticing Clara's discomfort, tried to calm her, but he himself could not shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. Suddenly, a child's laughter echoed through the room. It wasn't a joyful laugh, but a distorted and distant sound that made the young people freeze. Anna illuminated the source of the sound with her flashlight, but found nothing but shadows. Pedro tried to stay calm, suggesting it was just the wind, but the heavy atmosphere said otherwise. The laughter continued, now accompanied by light footsteps that seemed to dance around them. The teenagers looked around, trying to locate the source of the sounds. Then they saw, for a brief moment, the silhouette of a child running down the corridor. Pedro decided to follow the figure, while the others, hesitant, followed him. In each room they explored, more signs of the children's presence appeared. Small dusty handprints on the walls, tiny footprints on the dirty floor, and more laughter echoing from all directions. The young people began to realize that they were not just invading a physical space but a domain where time had stopped, and the souls of the missing children still played, trapped in an endless cycle of seeking and abandonment. Fear turned into dread when, upon turning a corner, they came face to face with a group of spectral children standing, watching them. Their faces were pale, their eyes deep and sad. It wasn't just a vision, but a silent communication of pain and a desire for company. The young people felt a chill run down their spines as the ghosts of the children slowly faded, leaving a feeling of emptiness and sadness in the air. The encounters with the unexpected were just beginning, and the teenagers knew that each step forward would take them deeper into the mysteries and horrors of the dark orphanage. As the teenagers continued their exploration of the orphanage, the feeling of being watched never left them. Each door they opened revealed new horrors, remnants of a macabre history that time could not erase. It was as if every inch of that place held a fragment of sadness and despair, a silent witness to the lives that were lost there. It was in one of these rooms, hidden at the end of a narrow, dark corridor, that they found something that would change everything. Anna, always in the lead, pushed open the heavy door that creaked in protest. The air was suffocating, the walls covered in old mold, and in the center of the room on a dusty table lay an old diary with a brown cover faded by time. Pedro was the first to approach, his heart beating wildly as he reached out to pick up the diary. Upon opening the first page, he felt a shiver run down his spine. The letters, written in a trembling, childish handwriting, seemed to pulse with emotion. Ana, João, and Clara came closer, reading over his shoulder. Today they locked us up again. They said it was for safety, but I know something else is happening. Each word was a stab in the heart, a glimpse into the suffering life of the children who lived there. The following pages narrated days of hunger, constant fear, and screams muffled by walls that seemed to devour sounds. Small drawings illustrated the horrors, dark figures haunting the corridors, empty eyes, and hands reaching out for help. Clara could not hold back her tears when she read a passage describing the shattered hope of a child who dreamed of a family, with love, but only found despair. The pain overflowed from the pages, invading the souls of the teenagers who felt the weight of those interrupted lives. Then, one specific page caught everyone's attention. It was different, written with a frantic urgency. They come at night. I hear their steps. There is no escape. If someone finds this, know that we didn't give up. They took us, but we are still here. The last sentence was smudged, as if tears had fallen on the paper. Pedro carefully closed the diary, feeling crushed by the sadness emanating from the object. The young people looked at each other, sharing a moment of deep silence, a silent mourning for the souls that never found peace. The orphanage was not just an abandoned building, it was a tomb of hopes and shattered dreams. And now, the teenagers understood that they were not just exploring a physical space, they were delving into the profound pain and history of the souls trapped there. Haunted place, but walking over the memories of lives that cried out for justice, for vengeance. The horror was not just in the stories they had heard, but in the palpable reality of the suffering experienced there. The young people now walked with a new awareness. Each step taken in the dark corridors of the orphanage was an incursion into a territory of pain and suffering. The invisible eyes of the missing children seemed to follow them, watching closely, evaluating their intentions. The feeling of being watched was intense, as if the very air was imbued with invisible eyes, attentive to every movement. The children's laughter that once echoed distantly now sounded closer, more insistent. They were not laughs of joy, but of desperation and contained rage. Pedro, Ana, João, and Clara felt increasingly vulnerable, as if they were being judged by a spectral court of restless souls. The atmosphere became heavy, and the darkness seemed denser, more oppressive. It was then that Pedro saw the first apparition up close. At the end of a corridor, a spectral child appeared, his pale face and empty eyes. The child raised his hand, pointing directly at him, as if accusing him of something. Pedro felt an icy chill run down his spine, and for a moment, he couldn't move, trapped by the accusing gaze of the ghost. Ana approached Pedro, holding his hand, trying to convey courage. But the presence of the spectral child did not disappear. Instead, other figures began to emerge from the shadows. Children of various ages, all with the same expression of deep sadness and contained rage. They surrounded them, forming a circle of restless souls. The young people heard whispers around them, indistinct words that gradually formed comprehensible sentences. You need to know. They hurt us. They took us. Each word was laden with emotion, a weight that seemed to crush the teenagers. João tried to say something, but his voice came out trembling and weak. Clara, with tears in her eyes, felt a growing despair as she realized the depth of the suffering those souls carried. The ghosts of the children were not just seeking company, they wanted vengeance. Their empty eyes reflected the torment of interrupted lives, of shattered hopes. The pain and anger emanating from them were palpable, like a mantle of darkness that enveloped the young people. The apparitions began to move closer, their ethereal hands almost touching the teenagers' bodies, as if wanting to absorb their lives, to steal their vital energy. Anna, in a gesture of desperation, whispered a prayer, asking for peace for the lost souls. The spectral children paused for a moment, as if considering her words. But the anger accumulated over decades of suffering could not be easily appeased. The spectral figures began to merge into a mass of dark energy, a vortex of pain and despair. The teenagers, now united by fear, realized they were in a deadly game, where their lives were at risk. Every movement was crucial. Every decision could mean the difference between escaping or becoming part of the shadows of the dark orphanage. They needed to find a way to appease the restless souls, to bring some form of justice to the interrupted lives. The children's quest for vengeance would not cease until their stories were heard, until the truth was revealed, and their tormentors faced justice. And the young people, now aware of the weight of this mission, knew they had to fight, not only for their lives but also for the souls that cried out for justice in the shadows of the dark orphanage. The orphanage, once just an abandoned and forgotten building, now pulsed with a malevolent, almost living energy. The walls seemed to close in around the teenagers, while the corridors turned into labyrinths of terror and despair. Each step taken was accompanied by sighs and whispers, echoes of an ancestral anguish that cried out for justice. Pedro, Ana, João, and Clara ran through the corridors, trying to find a way out. The panic etched on their faces reflected the urgency to escape that nightmare. The shadows around them danced sinisterly, and the spirits of the missing children appeared and disappeared, their ethereal presences surrounding the young people like a veil of darkness. With every attempt to escape, the teenagers were blocked by doors that closed by themselves, corridors that changed direction, as if the orphanage itself were playing with them, preventing their exit. Clara, the most sensitive of the group, could feel the sadness and anger of the spirits, and it devastated her. She knew the children were not evil, but victims of a cruel fate that had condemned them to wander eternally in that dark place. As they ran, the distorted laughter of the spectral children echoed through the walls, mingled with screams of despair. Pedro led the group, trying to stay calm, but the fear in his eyes betrayed his bravery. Ana, always fearless, now fought against the overwhelming sensation of terror that threatened to paralyze her at every moment. João stumbled, falling on the dirty, dusty floor. As he got up, he saw a spectral hand extended towards him, as if a ghostly child were trying to help him up. The cold, ethereal touch made his heart race, and he screamed, quickly backing away. The ghostly children surrounded the group now, their empty, sad expressions reflecting the suffering they had endured in life. The teenagers reached a large room, where a broken window let in a beam of moonlight. The exit seemed so close, but the spectral children would not let them leave so easily. The ethereal figures began to move more quickly, their laments turning into a chorus of agony that resonated through the walls. Ana, in a desperate gesture, took out the diary they had found and began reading aloud the last words written by the children. Her voice trembled, but she continued, feeling that this was the only way to appease the spirits. As she read, the ghostly children began to slowly approach, their expressions softening a little, as if they were finally being heard. Pedro, João, and Clara formed a circle around Anna, protecting her as she read. The moonlight seemed to intensify, illuminating the room almost supernaturally. The shadows began to dissipate, and the spirits of the children, one by one, began to disappear, their laments turning into whispers of gratitude. But the peace was fragile, and the orphanage still seemed to want to keep them trapped. With one last effort, the teenagers ran to the broken window, climbing with difficulty. Pedro was the first to get out, followed by Clara and João. Anna, the last, looked one last time at the now empty room, feeling a mix of relief and sadness, before joining her friends outside. Finally free from the orphanage, the young people ran until they were far enough away to feel safe. Their hearts still pounded, but they knew they had survived something terrible. They had escaped, but the memories of the lost souls and the horror they had witnessed would stay with them forever. The dark orphanage was left behind, a silent monument of sadness and vengeance. And as the teenagers moved away, they could almost feel a sigh of relief in the air, as if the souls of the children had finally found some peace.